Hello, welcome back to Sports Talk Philadelphia, your favorite show on TV, talking about Philly sports. I got a couple of great panelists on desk. We're talking about the Eagles win. We're talking about the Flyers win. We're coming at you after the intro.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You'll never have the sacred stone. Oh, this you crazy mother.
All right, so yeah, welcome back. I got Josh Abrams and I got Trevor Gregoric on desk talking Eagles, talking Flyers. Let's jump right into this Eagles talk, though. You know, we're 3-1 on the season. We just beat the Chargers. I'm feeling pretty good. Are you guys feeling pretty good?
Absolutely. At this point in the time during the season, we're 3-1. We were looking at the first couple games of the season. We're on the road. We had to win one of those, and we ended up doing that. We come back home, we beat the Giants, we get another division game win, and then we go into San Diego, and people were saying that it felt like a home game, right? Because everyone, it seemed like everyone in the Chargers stadium was cheering for us. I remember the Chargers coming out of the tunnel and hearing more boos than cheers. So that's definitely a really good sign.
Yeah, I'm excited. Carson Wentz is starting to look really good. Our defense plagued with a couple injuries, but they look like they're holding their own. And LeGarrette Blount, I'm super excited. Played a great game against the Chargers, and I think this team's just going up from here.
So if you remember this time last year, we were 3-1, but the season went much differently. As you can tell, we went 3-0 then, and we started our losing streak after that critical Redskins game last season. Now, though, it's like we're a completely different team. It's like we ran the ball the past couple of weeks. My God, I forgot what it's like to be a football team that can run the football. And just, yeah, like we look much better. Carson's looked much more confident in the pocket. Like, I know it's kind of early. It's only going to be week 5. But, week 4. But do you think we can talk playoff caliber team?
At this point, I think we can, just because you look at the team this year and compare it to our team last year. We're able to finish games now. We have an established running game with LeGarrette Blount, and I think after the game against the Chargers, where he rushed for 136 yards, that's a really good sign heading into what's going to be tougher games this season. The first half of our schedule isn't as tough as the second half. We're going to have a lot of tough games, including Denver and Seattle, 2 Cowboys games. We're going to need to play in the Meadowlands eventually towards the end of the season. Winning these games early in the season is really crucial, because when you look at, when you get towards the end of the season and you're saying, okay, this team is a borderline playoff team. What wins did they get early in the season? We already have 3 so far, and that's a really good sign.
I agree. Yeah, looking at the team right now, I would say it is a playoff caliber team. I feel like we're getting all the kinks out early in the season. And by the end of the season, like you said, we're going to be ready to play with these big teams, hopefully win the division and carry it into the playoffs.
All right, so yeah, let's get our stats up on the screen. We just went up against the Chargers. Like you said, we use Blount much better than we have recently. It's seeing him run the football and get those crucial yardage. It looks like he only has 16 yards up here right now. That's kind of weird on 16 carries, or is he only getting 1 yard a carry? We'll talk about that after the show. But man, I feel so much better about our football team now. Even then, we lost the one game. It had to have happened. We came close.
Yeah, you can't really discourage that loss. That was a really good loss to one of the best teams, or arguably maybe the best team in the league right now. The Kansas City Chiefs are a high-quality team with young playmakers like Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt, and you can't really be upset at that. We only lost by 1 possession, which is really encouraging. But you look at how the game played out. Yes, we gave up 24 points, but you had to know that it was going to be a close game, considering the fact that the Chargers were 0-3 going into that game. They really want to win, and theoretically they could have been 2-1, maybe even 3-0. I remember they had lost some really close games. So the fact that we were able to beat an 0-3 Chargers team that was really, really hungry for a win, it's really promising for us.
Yeah, and I think establishing this run game with LeGarrette Blount is taking tons of pressure off Carson Wentz that he had in the first 2 games. So the more pressure we take off him, it opens up the passing lanes. I mean, having an established run game with a good running back is key to this team right now, I feel like.
So yeah, as you can see on the screen, it's much different the way we've ran the football. You can see we ran a better balance of plays. Early on we were throwing on almost every down, and then they weren't even good passes. They were kind of like short passes. We really didn't open up our offense, and I was thinking to myself watching them play at the beginning of the season, if we continue that way, we're going to be destroyed because Carson Wentz can't make all of those throws, and he keeps throwing the football. He's only going to open up more opportunities for interceptions. Now that we're rerunning the football more, we have another game where we can kind of see who wants the ball more, who's going to fight for more yardage. Who do you guys feel is going to be the go-to back after this game for the next game?
I still think it's going to be LeGarrette Blount. Like I said, this game against the Chargers really set him up for the rest of the season, especially with Sproles being out now. Blount's going to really have to carry not a heavy load, but somewhat of a reasonable load on his shoulders. And I think having Smallwood as our second back, our third down back, is going to really help too. He only had 10 carries for 34 yards, but in the passing game on third down, he had 4 receptions for 45 yards. That's also going to be key too, because you look at some of the best teams in the league, they have passing down backs that can ease the pressure off of LeGarrette Blount. So I think establishing our running game in week 4 was really huge for us.
Yeah, I agree. I think Smallwood, I'm really confident with Smallwood coming in when LeGarrette Blount needs a rest. I think he's reliable. He can catch the ball, which is also great. So having like this 1-2 punch of LeGarrette Blount, who's just a downhill runner, and Smallwood, who has incredible speed, I think we're in a good position now. We need to stay healthy. It was kind of sad losing Darren Sproles. Hopefully he comes back for another season. But having these 2 running backs on the team now, I think it's great.
Yeah, and I want to take a second and talk about Carson Wentz specifically. So it's been a while since the Eagles have had a consistent quarterback. And Donovan McNabb, for all those years, he was our consistent quarterback for such a long time. And now seeing Carson Wentz, I'm not going to lie, I get a little nervous when you think about it. Like, is this really the man? But when I see him be able to move around in the pocket like that, move around like a seasoned, like Aaron Rodgers moves around in the pocket, I feel really good. Do you think that we have a man here who will be here for 15 years, couple Super Bowl winner? Like, is it officially Carson Town yet?
Well, that's what you want to get out of your team is a win, is a Super Bowl win. And I think Carson Wentz, with time coming and everything, he can definitely be a better quarterback than he is right now. But the fact that the overall analysis is that he's a young quarterback, he's going to get better eventually. The thing with me is that I really want him to stop losing the ball. He can't keep fumbling every game, and I understand that more times than not he recovers those fumbles. But you really got to let us breathe a little bit more, and that's what I want to see from Carson, is to take care of the ball more. I know he can't be a perfect quarterback every game, but I just really want to see the fumbles go on a downward slope.
Yeah, I think it's just going to come with time. Like we all have to remember he's still a young player. I agree though. I want to see him make some better decisions in terms of getting the ball out of his hands quicker. Sometimes he tends to hold on to it too long in the pocket, but he is good at extending the play. But just to see him maybe get the ball out of bounds, make just better decisions like that, that'll come. Like, I'm confident it'll come.
And one thing I also want to see is, now that he has a huge upgrade in wide receivers for the team this year, I think I want to see him take some more downfield shots. He couldn't really do that last year with Jordan Matthews being your number 1 receiver. Now you have a really big target in Alshon Jeffrey that can get down the field and burn any cornerback in the league, essentially. He's got to take some chances there.
Yeah, it's definitely I always love it when I see Carson throw a deep ball because, like I said, I want to see that more. I'm all for it. If you want to waste it down just throwing a deep ball, just seeing, if that defense is prepared, see what happens. You notice quarterbacks, going back to Aaron Rodgers, he's my favorite comparison for Carson Wentz. If that's not obvious to the audience of the show, I don't know what is. But you see Aaron Rodgers be able to throw those deep balls, Heck, he was able to make it, survive in the playoffs a little longer just from that beautiful, fantastic throw to Richard Rodgers, in the end zone. And just to see a quarterback willing to take that, I think that's the last kind of step that we're going to go ahead and try to push on Carson Wentz. And going into just the next segment, talking about the picks of the week. So we're going to go up against the Cardinals. And the Cardinals have looked, in my opinion, kind of rough. They look like a good football team in flashes. But I don't know what's going on with Carson Palmer's getting up there in age. It's kind of rough to really think about. But if we can go ahead and throw the picks up there, we can show what. So yeah, we all, of course, have the Eagles winning. That's the second week in a row that we've all called it this way. I've called the biggest deficit in scoring, though, because, like I said, I don't really feel too good about the Cardinals. I don't think that they're going to be able to stop us from scoring. No team has really stopped us from scoring recently from what I guess now we can consider it a high-powered offense. I have the Eagles going 30-16 with Wendell Smallwood being the MVP. Josh has the Eagles going 28-20 with LeGarrette Blount as the MVP. And then Trevor Grigoric, I'm so sorry, I keep butchering your name, 27-21 with Tim Jernigan as the MVP. So yeah, let's talk about your picks. We all know we want the Eagles to win. Why do you think Blount's going to be over Smallwood for the MVP this game?
Well, as I mentioned in the show so far, he had a really great game against San Diego, who, in my opinion, has one of the better defensive fronts in the entire league, with Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa, two very dynamic young players on their defense. He was able to rattle off 100-plus yards, and I don't see the Cardinals' front seven really doing too much to hinder our running game. So I think LeGarrette Blount is bound to have another borderline, maybe just above 100 yards. And then, you look at the secondary, I think with the core that we have at wide receiver, we can really hang tough with any secondary in the game. So I think these early games, especially against an NFC West team in Seattle, they're going to be really good tests for us come later in the season when we play teams like Seattle and Denver, who have the best defenses in the league. You got to knock out the ones that you think that you almost know that you're going to win in order to have that confidence to play against the top-tier teams later on.
Right. I think I said 2 weeks ago when we were going up against the Giants that this team can go as far as the defense takes it, and I have Tim Jernigan as my MVP of this upcoming game. But really, I think it's the whole defensive line. If they work together, if they stay as a unit, I think they can stop the run game, which is huge in any game, But I think this defense as a whole can really play outstanding, one of the top defenses in the league. And if they just keep it up, I think our offense will just roll off that.
It's great that our defense have been pretty consistent with, and it's crazy. Our secondary has looked damaged. But outside of a few plays versus, the Chargers, where it's like a lucky throw, blown coverage really quickly. Some of these guys are pretty fast, so it's going to be hard to catch them. It was important, though, that they didn't let themselves feel defeated. It feels like such a beautiful football team again. Remember a couple years ago, our defense was abysmal, dare I say, trash. And just to see how much better they are. They actually can, outside of the, a couple people not wrapping up on tackles, which is a whole other problem. Eagles, make your tackles, please, over here. Make your tackles over here. They're messing with me. But just, wrap up, bring the player down. Outside of that, these guys are actually showing really good signs. Malcolm Jenkins is playing up. It's such a proud defense now that I think, Malcolm Jenkins, dare I say it, I'm going to say it, next Brian Dawkins. What do you think about that real quick?
Ooh, well, that's a very bold comparison right there, but, he is a very young safety, and I think he keeps on doing what he's doing with the Eagles, and the Eagles have really good success, especially in that secondary. You can't rely too much on Jenkins, but in terms of you can't rely on him to do big things every game, but he is reliable in terms of being able to hold it down. One thing I do want to mention, though, is that we haven't played – the past 2 games we've played New York and San Diego, who don't have good rushing attacks, right? So that and another thing that's going to really benefit us this Sunday is when we play Arizona, who is without their best player in David Johnson, a 2,000-yard rusher last year, or all-purpose yards, however you look at it. He is one of the most dynamic players in the league. Having him out this Sunday is huge for us and huge for Arizona too.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
All right, so yeah, we're going to hit you with a commercial break, but before we do that, I plead with you to follow us on Twitter, SportsTalk LTV. You can see all the predictions for all the people who aren't on desk this week, but you might see on other episodes. You'll be able to see how they feel about any of the games, and especially our Eagles games. So definitely check that out. We're going to hit you with a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Philadelphia Flyers coming off a victory. See you then.
Hi, Eddie Dunn here with LaSalle's favorite TV game show, Q&A. Do you know that LaSalle TV reaches over 300,000 homes in the Philadelphia area? Probably, right? Did you also know there's actually 13 zodiac constellations and not 12? The 13th is called Ophiuchus. But we got rid of that one because it sounds dumb, and also 13 is an unlucky number. So that's why we have 12. Where'd you learn that? LaSalle TV.
All right. Welcome back from the break. Like I said, we're talking about the Philadelphia Flyers. Season just started. We're 1-0. We looking pretty good. Like, dare I say we're looking pretty good? I know it's only one game. You know what? This is the excited episode of Sports Talk Philadelphia. I'm excited. So excited. Josh, Wayne Simmons, hat trick. My God, like just
Yes, yeah.
he
was my player to watch for this season, and sure enough, he comes through in a very, I'd say, a pretty tough environment in San Jose. San Jose has been a playoff caliber team for the past couple of years, and they go in there, they put up five goals, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. It was an offensive shootout. They gave up 2 goals in the first period, and I thought, all right, this is going to be a typical Flyers opening game where it's going to be, tough down to the wire, high scoring. But Brian Elliott came through. He gave up 3 goals, but he still saved 32 others. Wayne Simmons, as we said, had the hat trick. Claude Giroux scored the first goal of the season for the Flyers, which was really surprising to me, considering the fact that Giroux had kind of slacked off a little bit last year. And then Jordan Wheel got on the board as well. So that was very promising to see the young guy get up there.
So yeah, and so Nick, welcome Nick to the show, by the way.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Nolan Patrick, he also looked pretty good in this game. Like, let's hear about your opinion on him.
I think he is an excellent pick. Obviously, he was the second-round pick. I mean, the first-round pick, second overall. He is a very good skater. He can handle the puck very, very well. Even though he did not get a shot on goal last night, his shot during the preseason looked very well to me, and I am pleased with the way that he's going to go throughout this season, and hopefully he'll be with the Flyers for a very long time.
Yeah, man. So yeah, it's just it's a Flyer season now. We're just coming off of the end of the Philly season, right. and we got a whole new sport to watch. And so yeah, just what is your mentality about the team? Like, do you think that, like how do you feel about it, just in general, just both of you?
Well, you look at the Flyers' schedule. They had their first 4 games this season are on the road, and I think a couple of them, including San Jose and I believe Los Angeles tonight. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
But either way, their first 4 games are on the road this year, and that's very, very hard. Even though there's 78 more games to play, it's very tough to go on the road and beat a team like that. So, to get off to a good start by winning and winning in pretty dominant fashion, I'd say, that's very promising to me.
I think they're going to be very well this year. They have a mix of veterans and rookies. They're one of the youngest teams in the league. They they made a good combinations of all of the lines, mixing the old guys with the new guys.
Nice.
Yeah.
I just want to add in, I think that having Brian Elliott in goal this year is going to be really big. I was glad that we finally decided to get rid of either Mason or Neuwirth, and the choice was Mason, obviously. Yeah, you can't keep alternating between goalies every year, so it's really good that we have Elliott in goal this year. I think he's a really efficient goalie. I think he's going to be our goalie for most of the year. I do like Neuwirth, but I don't have confidence that he'll be a huge factor in us trying to make that push to the playoffs.
And so, yeah, I know, like you said, last season Claude Giroux didn't look as good as he can be. What do you think are, and you guys can both answer this, but like, what do you think is the steps that he should take to be better, like to become the Claude Giroux that we fell in love with initially?
Josh, go ahead.
Well, I think Claude Giroux is just going to have to keep doing his thing in terms of not only scoring the puck, but he's going to need to have a lot of assists too. That's what it's all about in terms of being a good offensive player. It's not just about scoring. You look at last night, Jake Voracek, one of our better, kind of veteran player on the Flyers. He had 3 assists, and so did Shane Gostisbehere. And Gostisbehere, I was actually really surprised about because he had kind of fallen off as well. But Claude Giroux, I think, after the kind of game he had last night, it's really good to get in the scoring column in the first game, especially when you score the first goal of the season. I'm hoping that he can bring back some of the stats that he had when he first played with the Flyers and really be, he is the leader of the Flyers. He's been on the team the longest. He's the only player left on the Flyers that has Stanley Cup experience. So it's really up to him. However he does is how the Flyers do this season, in my opinion.
I think with him scoring the first goal last night was like a real confidence booster, saying, hey, I'm going to have a great season. And he proved that throughout the game with all of the assists he had and all of the hits he gave on the boards.
So yeah, in the absence of Claude Giroux, who do you think can step up to be the leader on the team if he has another kind of bad season? Like, not bad, but
mediocre, I'd say.
Who do you think is the next couple of players who can kind of take that helm, kind of share that responsibility of being that team leader and like using their experience? Like, who are the next guys?
Well, to me, I think it's going to have to be Wayne Simmons and Jake Voracek. Last year, I think they were heavily relied on as the big 3 of the Flyers. But we do have a lot of good young players, as Nick had mentioned earlier. And, we have Sam Moran on defense. He's a really tall, young defenseman, has a lot of length. Wingspan is extremely, very, very long. He can definitely be our best defender this year, one of the best defenders. And then let's look at some second-year players in Ivan Provorov and Travis Konechny. Konechny got on in the scoring column, not goal-wise, but he had a couple assists in there. So getting involved in successful plays, whether if it's on the offensive side or the defensive side, that's going to be a huge confidence booster for the young guys. Yeah. They need to really get involved in those plays in order to have a really good season.
I think Wayne Simmons is gonna step up and be that leader if he goes down. You just look at the stats he had last night. He had 3 goals. 2 of them were on a power play. Once you get a power play goal, you just look good. They trust him, especially when it comes to that power play line. The power play line is one of the most important lines in all of hockey because that's where you get the easiest goals. So if Simmons keeps scoring goals, he will be that leader in that absence if something happens.
All right. So yeah, we talked Eagles. We talked Phillies. I mean Flyers, not Phillies. God. But now let's talk Fast Five. The fast segment with fast questions and even faster answers. That's right, I ripped that off. So Josh, I'm coming at you first. Okay. You know, the power rankings, again, you know, last week we talked power rankings, week before we talked power rankings. Now we're number 3. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think it's an honor more than anything to get up in the top 5. I did not think that we would eclipse the top 5 in the power rankings, but again, that's a huge confidence booster for them going ahead.
And Nick, I'm coming at you. You know, FlyersKings, it's tonight, so you can't watch them both at the same time. But you should probably watch our show instead. But what do you feel about the Flyers and Kings? What's your predictions?
I feel pretty good about their odds. They are, even though they are on the West Coast, and traditionally in years past, they're not very good on the West Coast, but they're coming off a big win last night. They're scoring. I think I'm going with the Flyers for tonight's game.
All right, and Josh, as you know, Colin Cowherd comes out and calls us the dumbest sports city. That's right, Philadelphia. Get mad at that. Get mad at that. How do you feel about it? I'm livid.
Well, I'm pretty mad at that too. I listened to the video that Cowherd had, you know, that he had produced on his show, The Herd. And I don't like, I get his points, the fact that we, you know, quote unquote, ran out Randy Reed out of the city. But you got to remember that at the time that it was necessary. He had been around for too long. We had too many losing seasons, no playoff wins for how many years. It only made sense to get rid of him. Cowherd has to start having an open mind if he doesn't want to get criticized every time he speaks.
Oh, so real quick, Nick, snap judgment. Philadelphia's famous for those. We're 1 into the Flyer season. Do we make the playoffs?
Yes.
All right. Josh, coming at you. How much better do you think the Phillies will do next year? Ballpark score, record.
You know, I could see them finishing about 500 or so. They're not playoff ready yet, and they're not going to be for a couple years. We got to get these young guys some more playing experience and more importantly, more meaningful playing time. The prospects came up in August. They saw some time, which is awesome, but it's not crunch time. So you got to get them time in there.
All right, sounds good. So that is an episode of Sports Talk Philadelphia in the books. We're going to be coming at you next week talking about, of course, the Eagles, of course, the Flyers. We're going to be recapping it. Follow us on social media. We got our social media up there, Sports Talk LTV. Like I said, you can find our predictions. Just come follow us. Watch us on YouTube. Check us out on Facebook. Definitely check us out. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.